Please enjoy this uninterrupted episode brought to you by CourseDog. CourseDog is the intelligent academic operations platform, unifying how higher ed manages scheduling, curriculum, catalog, assessment, and more. Built on a layer of actionable analytics and seamless integrations with every major SIS and LMS, CourseDog is where academic operations drive student success. To learn more, please go to CourseDog.com. That's CourseDog.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Saluccio back with you on another episode, and I'm back with one of my now common co-hosts. She's moved from uncommon and new to common and mature. I was going to say old, but she's not. She's just a mature co-host now. We had some audio problems, as we often do. We had to switch out some headphones for her. Now she's got the big fluffy ears on in terms of her microphone. We always think it's funny with technology. I always think that sleeker and newer is better, but sometimes the old Walkman is just as good. No, she doesn't actually have a Walkman. Does anybody have a Walkman anymore? Anyway, this is the stuff that generally goes on in my head, and you're getting to see the thoughts that randomly come into my head during the day. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get her in appropriately. Here she is. She's Bridget Moran. She's a senior content manager at CourseDog. Bridget, did I accurately explain your situation here on the technology?
Yes. It's great to be here, Joe, but it's funny you bring it up. I think that my dad was gifted these headphones in the workplace maybe 15 to 20 years ago, and they work great. So like you said, sometimes newer is not always better.
I'm actually surprised that you found anything, because didn't you just move cross country? So I'm surprised you even had anything readily available to you and that it wasn't in a box in the garage.
Yes, these are the plain headphones. So they, I guess, have now moved up to the work headphones.
Well, there you go. Well, we think you sound great here, and we've got a great guest because you're going to need to ask him really hard questions. I'll ask the easy ones. You ask the hard ones so that I can have the better reputation when the episode's over. That's the way I like to do things here. No, I don't really do that. I'll ask some hard ones too, or we'll just ask a bunch of questions. I know he knows how to answer them. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Dr. Tom Neville. He's the Vice President of Academic Affairs at GateWay Community College. Tom, welcome to an EdUp Mike. How are you?
All right, wonderful. Thanks for having me. And I'd say I'm really impressed with your tech team that was just right on that headphone situation.
I mean, they are all over it. They're worldwide and global in every household. You don't know it. And the sound effects, right?
Victory!
They're working the soundboard, too.
Yeah, I'm impressed already.
Well, we're impressed with you, my friend, and so you're going to tell us why, of course, a little bit about GateWay Community College, where you are, who do you serve, and how do you serve them?
Yeah, well, Gateway Community College is one of the 10 colleges in the Maricopa system. We serve the greater Maricopa County, which is, of course, most people know it as Phoenix. And so this, within Maricopa, we're really focused on workforce education at Gateway, very much delivering a lot of great opportunities for students in healthcare and other types of workforce programs, including automotive, beauty and wellness. We're a very unique college within Maricopa. We also have clock hour programs. We also provide credit hour programs, and of course now we're doing bachelor's degrees. So we're serving the community in so many ways, and just providing as much opportunity as we can to transform the students that want to come and experience with.
That's great. I love the point as you're talking about bachelor degrees, and I'm not sure if we lost you, Tom. You still there? There he is. He's back. We lost him for a second, but he always returns.
I'm always here somewhere.
Is it okay? Let me hear you again, Tom.
Yeah, my back. Let me see if I can switch to another hotspot or something.
Yeah, try that. Cut you out basically on the tail end of everything you said.
And that was all the good stuff too. That's one thing about Phoenix. Our Wi-Fi is not so strong here.
You might go off camera. That might help.
Yeah, let me try that.
We can all do it. Bridget, if you want to do it too, we can all go off so that we can.
Yeah, I can do that.
Might have to switch over to my phone.
Take your time.
Okay. Right. Sorry about that.
We think we got you back.
I think so.
All right, give it another shot. Let's just pick it up from. Let's do that whole question. I hate to say it. We'll do that whole question
sorry.
over. And so I'll count down from 3. I'm going to re-ask you the question, and we'll jump into it. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. 3, 2. Tom, we're so excited to have you here as a part of the podcast. I know that and have heard that you're doing great work out there at Gateway Community College, but level set for the audience for us. We always want to give our audience a heads up. You know, where are you? Where's Gateway Community College? Who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yeah, I'm at Gateway Community College, which is in scenic Phoenix, Arizona. And Gateway is one of the 10 colleges within the Maricopa system, a very large system here. Really serving a very diverse group of students throughout Maricopa County. And we're really focused on healthcare education at Gateway. We're really the workforce college within the system. So a lot of focus and attention on serving the healthcare community. We have some wonderful automotive programs, beauty and wellness programs. I can go on and on. They're all wonderful programs, but we'd be here all day listing all of those. Also we're unique within the Maricopa system because we offer clock hour programming, non-credit programming, credit programming, and of course our newly minted bachelor's degrees, which we're really excited about serving all of the communities that we do and throughout the state. So we're an open access institution, and we're just really excited about the opportunities to serve our students in the way that we're able to.
And Tom, I love that how you listed out just so many different types of programs that it sounds like Gateway offers. And something that really interested me when I was, researching Gateway a little bit and your background is the apprenticeships that you offer. I think that, there's definitely been an increased interest, both by students and the general public in these apprenticeships, providing those affordable programs, directly leading to jobs. But I'm sure, as you probably know, standing up those programs is easier said than done. And I know that you've done this before. So could you kind of walk us through, why are these registered apprenticeships kind of difficult to stand up, and what are community colleges doing to really help bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think they're great. It's just a great way for us to find new ways of access for students, and I think that's really the key to what we're standing up and how we're looking at the future of what we're doing. Not only at Gateway, but I think across the country. And apprenticeships is vital to that. Because we know you can go out, there's that traditional part where we will just give you the credit for prior learning with your journeyman's card and say, hey, come and finish a few classes with us and we'll give you an associate's degree. And, that would be probably most likely, hopefully stackable into a bachelor's degree. So you can continue on your education path if you choose to, without much burden on the student. They can just seamlessly go through that. But I think the biggest challenge we see, of course, is just getting employers to understand what we can do to help them provide some of that education opportunity through apprenticeship models, whether that's being an RTI or other type of liaison, because it's a lot of work, but we're built, I think, to provide that intermediary perspective for those employers and the student to be able to drive that future workforce and whatever that entails. We're trying to remain as flexible and be able to pivot on whatever student or whatever industry or business partner comes to us. How can we deliver in the best interest of our students and our community?
100%.
You have Tom, you have a great president, Dr. Amy Diaz, who I know well and have interviewed before, and she strikes me as why aren't we doing that type of person, or we need to be doing that better than they've been doing. And then you look at what you're doing, you clock hour, credit, non-credit, associate, bachelor's. You think about the number of something that will make the back sweat of any academic or registrar is program versions. You have all these different program versions. Yeah. Sometimes you have 2 or 3 versions of the same program, not just one version of each program because it's online or on ground or a hybrid. That's a lot of management of Title IV. It's a lot of management of credits, of transfer, of pathways, making sure that you don't have students that are sort of in the whirlpool getting credits and not getting any kind of credential for them and just sort of amassing credits and not getting anything. It's a lot to manage. How do you keep it all straight?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think our main goal is always, manage that from on the back end of things. We don't want a student that feels as though they can't find which way they should go, from a public facing view or from them onboarding or their interest in the college. So, that's something that's behind the scenes. It's a tap dance. It's juggling chainsaws that are on fire. But, right. we serve our students. So we're going to do whatever we have to do. And whether that is figuring out the best way to solve that gap behind the scenes or, improve that communication or create a workflow or using some sort of technology to improve that process. We certainly don't want any student or any outside of the college looking in to say, hey, this is really confusing to us. We'll handle that on the backside. And it does. It takes a good team. We have a great team at GateWay, across academic affairs, student affairs, business services. We really work together very well to solve problems. And I think that's one of the other unique opportunities at GateWay is we're really focused on our students.
I love it. Bridget once said that co-hosting with me was like trying to juggle chainsaws that were on fire. Right, Bridget?
While riding a unicycle, right?
Yikes!
And Tom, you're just talking about some of that complexity at the program level, but I imagine also working at an institution that has multiple campuses also is not without its challenges. So, as the VPAA, how are you working with instructors across all of your campuses to make sure that, all of them feel supported to best serve your students?
Yeah, and that's another great question because it's really about the team, right? It's about how you support the team, just how present you are. Luckily, these days we also have technology that helps us stay connected in ways that, of course, when I was coming through school or just starting out, we didn't have, even doing a podcast on Zoom wasn't really possible back in those analog days. So, we leverage that. We try to be present at our campuses. We try to build a, just that support team within our academic affairs leadership team that's really focused on ensuring that we're staying in constant communication, we're solving those problems, and I think it seems to be working. I think that we're really got a great culture of ensuring that not only our students are having a wonderful experience, but also our faculty and staff.
You said something that I think we all think about too is culture. And as a VP, Bridget, you know this too, maintaining a culture is so important, a culture of innovation, especially for a workforce college, right? Where you have to stay connected to the workforce. You got to make sure that the skills are updated. You got to make sure that the curriculum is getting updated quickly. Curriculum isn't always updated quickly in higher education. There's always some reason why we can't get it done. But when you're a workforce college, you're sort of almost expected to move a little bit faster. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this all the time because, I haven't always been at Gateway or in Maricopa, and being where I am now at the college with just talking about our clock hour programs. We're doing curriculum changes monthly. It seems like because they're really really innovative in terms of staying connected with industry. So we've really kind of moved that curriculum cycle in everything we're doing in the clock hours, just really driven internally at Gateway, since we are the college that has that. On the opposite end of that, with our the credit side of things, it gets a little bit more complicated within Maricopa because all the 10 colleges share that curriculum as well. So if you think also back to some of those unique programs we might have at Gateway that maybe is just very specialized at our college, we're able to move some of those things a little faster too. But certainly, engaging with advisory committees, ensuring that we're providing whatever technology or opportunities, aligning with accreditations. We have a lot of specialized accredited programs. So just really keeping that tap dance going. But again, it goes back to having that team that is really driven and motivated to ensure that we are providing that best contemporary state of the art. We try to stay on the curve of innovation, and we try to define innovation as just doing something with impact. What can we do that's going to be different and drive impact?
Tom, on that topic of innovation, I was recently reading that Arizona launched a Semiconductor workforce accelerator program, and I know that Gateway is a big part of that. So I would love if you could tell us a little bit more about that. Particularly from the curriculum perspective, how are you making sure that Gateway is ready for that? You have, the instructors in place with the necessary expertise. What goes into standing up this type of program?
Yeah, we're kind of a unique approach in that as well, because throughout the Maricopa system, we already have some of that curriculum established. So we're focused at Gateway right now. We're really deep into it. Is renovating one of our campuses for semiconductor incubator training space. It's really exciting, and I'm learning a lot. Semiconductor is not my background, if you didn't know that, but we're really looking at how can we create a facility that is embedded into the industry of Semico, and really focusing on some of those core components that these entry level positions into that industry would look at. So just basic circuit training, mechatronics, it's just some of those familiar terms that you probably heard before. But we're really trying to look at it as an opportunity to create space that is ultimately flexible. We're building a mock clean room. We don't really need to have a traditional clean room. Not only are we saving money on that, but we can change things in and out as the technology evolves. So we're just creating kind of that open type of learning environment where, say, a company or an industry, because besides the big players like TSMC and Intel, that whole ecosystem of the supply chain is following. Phoenix is it's on fire, literally and figuratively, for the semiconductor industry. So how do we prepare for all of that? So we got a awesome funding source through the Arizona Commerce Authority to renovate this space, and we're working with those industry partners, and we're working with some of those companies that build some of these training machines. We're looking at the curriculum. We've been talking to Austin Community College. Shout out to my old college there, and they're great friends of ours on how they did it. So kind of helps us not reinvent the wheel and make mistakes. And just how then can we provide that specialized training in a way that is flexible, changing. Say a company wants to come in and set up something for 2 weeks, we can do that. We can set up credit, we can do non-credit, we can do clock hour, we can do credit for prior learning, just whatever is needed for us to meet the needs of our community. That's what we're designed to do, and I think we do it pretty well at GateWay.
Did you hear I heard the joke in there too about the literal on fire of Phoenix.
Fire.
Gotta have jokes, Joe. Gotta have jokes.
Fire.
I heard it and I appreciate it. By the way, there's something that you said that would strike fear into every academic and VP of AA out there, and it's called clock hour to credit hour conversion. That it's just so much fun to do those, isn't it?
It is, but it makes sense for us. And the awesome part is, you can complete all of our clock hour curriculum, and we will credit for prior learning that into an associate's degree, or into even back from that associate's into the bachelor's degree. So we're really looking at how we can build that pipeline from K-12 all the way through a doctorate. I mean, with our university partners for master's degrees and doctorates, how does that whole pipeline from kindergarten to, PhD or, any other doctorate, how does that work for us? And how can we be a part of building that structure, that framework? So, for generations to come, hey, I want to be whatever I want to be in middle school, and we can prepare you through your high school experience, with dual enrollment or anything such as that, and then build you all the way through to your career goals. That's ultimately what I think we want to do in higher ed.
And it's what we should do. Yeah, it's what we should do, and we should be able to talk about it. We should be able to action on it with the ease that you're talking about it, because it's the sentences that you're putting together are not often easily actionable for a lot of colleges and universities, right?
No, they're not. I mean, it takes a lot of work, right? I mean, and it's we're in the middle of it. I wouldn't say we've designed it and we're rocking it and the whole world's wonderful. We're in the trenches. We're trying to make these things happen, but we know that effort is worth it, and I think it's a great area for us to put our energy and our focus.
And that the student expects it. They are looking for an understanding of this converts to that, or if I have these things, it converts to this, and I need it done with some level of speed and efficiency because that's the way my cell phone works. And so we're all looking for it, right?
Yeah, it's changing fast too. I mean, we can't. I mean, it's rapid. It's very rapid.
Bridget, do you see that on the course dog side too? That students are just sort of wanting a speed.
Oh, definitely. I think that probably the top example that comes to mind is thinking about, the course catalog, or being able to find about, which requirements do you need to meet for your program, right? Students, they have no tolerance for going through a hundreds of page catalog that's a PDF. They have no idea where to find this information. They expect it to be like Google, right? They can just type in what they need to find, and it should just be able to pop right up for them. Many of them probably don't even know what a catalog is. They say, I should just be able to go on the site and find it. So that's, I think that's probably one of the most applicable examples, but definitely.
Yeah, it's an important concept, and one that I think will keep popping up. And the question becomes, Tom, what comes next? Do you think, and we're seeing it amongst community colleges and really 4 years too, right? There's this, I don't know what to call it, a degree convergence, where you see 4-year comprehensives go, well, you know what, we need to increase our pipeline of students, so we're going to start doing associate degrees and certificates. And then you see some community colleges go, like GateWay go, hey, we've got associate degree grads. They've been transferring to this 4-year over here. Why wouldn't we just offer a bachelor's degree and they could just stay with us and seamlessly move to the next level? So there's sort of a convergence happening. Do you think learning modality might be the difference moving forward? Do you think like CBE or non-standard term, that like those will be the differentiators of the future?
I'm going to say yes to everything, because I think the future is wide open, and I think it's up to us as institutions to get out of our own way, and adapt to that. And whether we internally want to call it whatever we want to call it, to the student, it shouldn't matter. It should be about how can they, how can they proceed on their journey without, any speed bumps, without any hiccups. And I think, Bridget, you mentioned a lot of it is, how does technology play into that? And I've been saying for a while now, maybe it's in my talking to myself, but we're becoming more and more tech companies every day. I mean, think about all the digital content we make at a college or university. Students are cranking things out. Faculty are cranking things out through through their LMS. I mean, they're producing digital content. But we don't always operate like one. I mean, I don't want to throw us under the bus, but from a business an operations standpoint, we're teaching all this innovative things, but we don't operate with it sometimes. And that's just because we don't really focus a lot of our budgets into our moving our paper trail to a digital trail. We really put our focus on students. But I think at some point, as the technology becomes more affordable, and obviously they'll get me, data centers are another big thing here in Arizona as well. But so keeping an eye on that. And how all of that impacts what we do as a business. I think that's another big area of opportunity for us in higher ed. And at some point, we always talk about, the blockchain and everything behind the scenes, but how are we going to be connecting education as a higher ed environment that way? We're getting there. We're getting closer.
Artificial intelligence.
Tom, I think you really hit the nail on the head there when you were talking about students expect all of these, wonderful tech forward experiences, but we ourselves, aren't always practicing that on, the back end for our operations. And I think it can definitely be daunting for a lot of institutions when thinking about just how many things run behind the scenes and how many processes there are, and thinking about how to, kind of take those to the next level. So I would love to hear from your perspective, VPAA, some of those more operational functions that you're managing. Where do you see the most opportunity for technology to come in and really help you, take it to the next level, be more efficient, all of that good stuff?
In all transparency, I'm just here trying to figure out how chatbots work. How can that just? But my challenge has always been to the tech companies that at least we engage with is, once they create my digital clone, and I can just work from the beach somewhere, then I feel like we've achieved our goal in higher ed.
Artificial intelligence.
But it's about me at that point. No, I'm just kidding. It is. It's about using this technology because we know it's here. We know it's available. There's a security risk because we have student information. We have that, so we have to be cautious of that. So we kind of have to proceed a little bit carefully with how we're utilizing some of these, at least from the business and operations, side of things. But we have to rely on our partners because partners like CourseDog and some of our other industry partners who you're developing this. You're the ones that know how to put those pieces of the puzzle together. And we're really just reliant on some of our cool friends, and I think that's okay. Because we are all in this together, and we all kind of focus on our certain components of how we make it happen. So we do have to work together on that because technology. Going through music school, very rarely did I touch a computer, but here we are every day, engaging with folks all around the world through our laptops.
What do you still use as a percussionist, Tom? You got a drum set in your office, or are you just always tapping the pens on the table? Like, what's the deal?
Here's one cool thing about GateWay. There's many, but one cool thing is we have an employee band, and they for some reason let me drum in it, and it's so much fun. We have a blast. But what a great way to be introduced to the campus community and become engaged with my colleagues at the college, and we jam, and we kind of have a spin-off of that. So now we're playing out at local establishments, and it's really a fun thing to do. But yeah, I keep a drum set at home. I don't have one in my office, but I do have some percussion instruments there.
One thing that when you think about music, and the cadences and the repetitive nature of music, it does help you understand certain things in higher ed, like academic calendars that have their own cadences and heartbeats to them, and replication. And sometimes as a provost, you're not sometimes, you're a conductor, you're making music, right? You think about, I was on an episode recently and I was talking to, gosh, I can't remember. So I think Bridget, I think you might have been with me, and I was listing off just some of the areas that a provost sort of deals with, right? And you've got student issues, right? A lot of times provosts, people associate a VP of academic affairs or provost with, well, you're just going to do everything sort of in the classroom and then not related to students. Well, students have lots of issues. They have grievance processes, and you have to go through the faculty, sometimes all the way up to the VPA. So you're dealing with students. You've got faculty, you've got deans, you've got contracts, you've got the transcripts and credits, and like you said, clock hour, you've got the academic calendars that have to be maintained. You're very involved in Title IV with SOC codes and SIP codes and IPEDs and all of these bits and pieces. And we're in a time when there's a lot of distraction externally that takes us people away from thinking about those blocking and tackling bits that we still need to do to serve students and run the institution. How do you manage some of the noise coming in and out of the institution to make sure that you're staying focused?
Yeah, man, that's, and all that's before noon on Monday, usually, right?
Right. And meetings. I didn't say meetings.
Yeah. Well, I think, how do you stay? Well, I think you got to keep one foot in the noise and one foot out of the noise, because some of the noise impacts the other foot. Obviously what's going on, globally, geopolitically, at the state, at the local level. I mean, we have to keep an eye on that lane. And of course, like I mentioned before, it takes a village, right? If you have a college that has so many people dedicated and really focused on students, they're helping digest some of that noise and translate some of that noise. And it's like an orchestra, as you mentioned. When you play in a really good orchestra, I mean, you've got goosebumps when you're performing, or even listening, right, as a listener. So that when that moment happens, you want to stay in that moment. You don't want to lose that. So I think as you start working on the team, and ensuring that those all those things that you mentioned, credits, the SOC codes, and the grievances. I always say, if a student's in my office, it's either really good or really bad. And so how do we put ourselves together as a team, through our strategic goals, through our plans, through our culture? That's really how I think you succeed. I think, as an individual, there's not one individual at the college that can keep all of that going and still keep an eye on what's happening outside of the college. It's impossible.
Tom, I think you've touched on the word team several times in many of your answers, and I think that probably speaks to just being able to effectively manage, so many of these different areas that Joe was listing off. So who are some of, the unsung heroes who, may not be as recognizable to students or the public, but are really, behind the scenes getting things done and making sure that students are having a great experience?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, the colleges are an amazing ecosystem, because you have everybody from groundskeepers who keep the campus looking amazing, to our facilities folks, and even folks cooking in the cafeteria, things like that. I mean, those are some of the, I would say, some of the unsung heroes. And even in the classroom, right? I mean, you have faculty that are just really so dedicated to ensuring that they're passing on knowledge and ensuring students are prepared for what they're here to do. And then, of course, our departmental staff, our administrative support, and those folks, and of course the people that write the checks, right? We got to keep the lights on and keep that equipment purchased and maintained and all that. So it is. I mean, it's I don't know. I think they're beautiful places because because of our mission, right? Our mission is to serve our students. And when you have that mission and everybody's really focused on it, it just makes such an inspirational place to be at, and you want to continue to give contribute your part back to that in a way that maybe you didn't the day before, because something, every week we meet as an executive team, and we always share a mission moment that we experienced, and I think that just keeps us grounded in what we do, and I think that's just a wonderful way for us to always start a meeting, whether that's it might be a difficult conversation or challenging competitive needs that we have to kind of digest and figure out what we're going to do, or what are we planning for the future, which is always where I like to live. I like to live where are we going to be in the next 5 years. That's just something I'm comfortable with, and I feel that's my strength. We live in the future here in Phoenix. We have those cars with no drivers that drive you around, so it's a good fit.
Tom,
You said, Bridget, let me just jump in real fast, because you said something that I think resonates with me, and I just want you to comment on it if you could, Tom, because I know, and I've said it before on the podcast, but every time somebody brings it up, it just sort of triggers it for me. And that's that how many institutions, we used to, we all say we serve students, or we're student first or student centered, and actually executing on that, there's variability. Some institutions will say that and not really have their policies be student centered and so on. But I found when I was recently in a higher ed institution, I would always start my meetings with a student story, like who has a story where we helped someone today. Like that's the first agenda item, where we changed a life, or we changed a policy and it helped this person or that person, because it was starting with the student. If we're going to be student first, starting the meeting with a student first story or something student first sets the stage for the rest of the meeting, rather than we have this meeting all about policy and at the end we talk about students. There's really a shift in how you think if you always lead with that student story first in every meeting.
It is, because, and I think the other part of that is, not everybody has one to share, because, there might be a week where I am not as engaged as I'd like to be with a student, or I didn't get something reported back to me that's like, oh man, that was so awesome, that we need to share that story. So sometimes it's just other people's inspiration reminding you why we're there, because sometimes we just get caught up, just because my role, I'm not so student facing anymore, but back when I was a faculty member, of course, that was my whole reason why I went to work every day, and I don't think that's lost on any of us here at GateWay.
Go ahead, Bridget. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no problem. Tom, I was going to say, I think you really teed yourself up back there when you said that you live for planning for the future. You love thinking about what's going to be happening in the next 5 years. So yeah, basically, I'm throwing that question right back to you. What's ahead for the Phoenix metro area in the next 5 years, and how is GateWay planning for that?
Yeah, I think we've kind of hit on it a little bit as we've been talking. Obviously, the semiconductor, the semico ecosystem is a big deal here. It's ground zero in the U.S. for that, and it's just timing, right? It just happened to be here. We talked a little bit about data centers. Biotechnology is another big opportunity here. There's a lot of universities with ASU here. They're starting a medical school. University of Arizona in their medical school. There's those opportunities coming. And housing. There's plenty of housing here. People are moving here. So I think the traffic is going to be a bigger issue than it already is. So I think, as you think about the future, it not only involves, from your own perspective or what's revolving in your world, but, what's impacting that a little bit further out. And I think that's where you got to keep your eye, because, we have a certain process or procedure in play today that's going to change over the next 5 years. We're going to have to be able to react to that. So if we can build those mechanisms or those infrastructures or that way of thinking with our teams that say, hey, if we have to zig left and we have to zag right, are we ready for that? And if we're prepared and we're mentally prepared and we set ourselves up and our systems up to do that, then I think that's part of it. But then, what are those 11 zigs or zags we should be thinking about right now? Because any of them are possible. And then you throw a curveball, like the geopolitical situation we're in. That could change some of our trajectory, but where does that land on that spectrum? So I think it goes back to earlier, and we talked a little bit about the noise and that balance. But so we got to keep an eye on a lot of things. But I think if anybody's been in the classroom, you have those eyes in the back of your head anyway, so you can always see what's going on at some point.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Every faculty member is built with two sets of eyeballs, eyes in the back of their head, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, well, students keep you on your toes, that's for sure.
Especially now, especially today, right? I mean, you're dealing with AI too, right? What's going on in the world of AI? I always think it's funny because people talk about going to the grocery store and picking up some AI, like it's like you're just going to just grab some off the shelf and implement it at your university to make everything great and better. How are you thinking about AI strategies for faculty, for PD, for anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking everything that we come across. I always run it by our CTL team and be like, hey, is this something we should be looking at? And vice versa. They're always like, hey, this is something we should be looking at. And I'm always like, yeah, we should, but let's get moving on it. So, we're a Google school. So, we, of course, focus on what's going on in the Google environment, Canvas environment, how all that's impacting. Of course, now we're really focused on ADA compliance and all that's happening, nationally. So we're really deep into how we're going to, what resources we need to align. We have great partners with Adobe. So of course, how we can remediate PDFs through them, since, they invented it. Hopefully they have a good solution for us. Our Canvas partners and of course, that's really truly an academic affairs kind of look at it. There's going to be more views of that, of course, from the DRS team or from the legal team. Of course, they're going to have a different interpretation too. So how do we all meet in the middle and move some of those initiatives forward? But yeah, I think it's a challenge with AI because as soon as you start looking and keying in on something, it changes. So I guess maybe we should just ask the AI what we should be doing with the AI. I don't know. Maybe we'll come to that.
Bridget, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to ask AI. I do know how to get it to say stuff, though.
Artificial intelligence.
I was going to say, Tom, you and me both, I think we are all grappling with those questions right now, whether you're at an institution or on, the more corporate side.
Yeah. And I kind of have an internal struggle because, again, going through school, I was in a total analog environment. There wasn't a lot of AI in the practice room when I was practicing my Glockenspiel excerpts, So yeah, I feel like it's something that it's changing and we know it's impacting. You've got, you read any major publication and there's going to be something about AI and how it's impacting the future of the workforce. And if we're training the future workforce, then obviously we need to know as much as we can about it. But again, it goes back to those partners. So if the software companies are inventing this and they're making these things happen, then we need to be partners with them so we can be ensuring our students are successful to be prepared for careers where that's necessary. And it's really touching almost everything. But it's also not about to me, it's just not about that technical, hey, how's ChatGPT or whatever going to change, but what about, from a creative space too? I think, we don't want to ever lose scope of creativity because, the humanities are still relevant in all this conversation. So we don't want to just, when I say workforce, I don't just mean, learning a technical skill to go prepare for a job or pass the certification. We got to continue to focus our students to be critical thinkers and creatives and communicators.
What else do you want to say about Gateway Community College that hasn't been said? Anything you want the audience to know, Tom?
Yeah, come on down, come and say hi, come visit, show you some cool stuff. We have some really exciting things happening. I think, we're we're trying to be as forward thinking and innovating as we can. And we have the resources, we have the synergy, and I think it's just a great opportunity to share the story. So just want to thank you for that. But yeah, please come and visit. Phoenix is a wonderful time of year. I would avoid the summer, but the rest of the 9 months of the year, it's amazing here. Beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, beautiful people, and we hope y'all come and visit and say hi.
Fire.
I'm not. I didn't hit that button for the weather. I hit that button for you, Tom. You're all fire, my friend, and I love it. And it's the innovative spirit and the innovative urgency to serve the modern student that I think is going to set institutions apart from each other. But before I let you go, I have to say, Bridget, this headphone set you had, you sounded the best of any of the episodes we've done together. I could hear you clearly, and it was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Bridget Moran.
It was great.
At Course Dog, and she sounded fantastic. Bridget, what did you think of this episode?
This was great. Tom, I might have to take you up on your offer. My parents recently moved to Prescott, so I find myself flying into Phoenix more and more.
Yeah.
So yeah, would love to stop by Gateway.
Well, we're right next to the airport, so you can't miss us.
Look,
The
I
next
have no
time you
excuse.
go, Bridget, you need to go by Tom's office. We'll do another episode with the two of you in office together, and we'll record again.
Live from
Yeah,
Gateway.
let's do it. Yeah, bring your Walkman.
Yeah. Bring your Walkman and headphones. Somebody that is walk it out, as they say. Somebody walking it out is my guest. No, he's your guest today, ladies and gentlemen. He's Dr. Tom Neville. He's VP of Academic Affairs at Gateway Community College, part of the Maricopa Community College system. Tom, thanks for being here on EdUp and providing us great leadership insights and view into the future of higher ed.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And you can come and join us too in my office, and we'll have a great time. Maybe we'll jam.
We will jam. I'll get on the drums and smash around like I know what I'm doing, but I have no idea.
That's how I do it, so it's fine.
Yeah, fair. That's how I do these podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the EdUp Experience, and you've just EdUp'd.
Thank you for listening to this uninterrupted episode brought to you by CourseDog. CourseDog is the intelligent academic operations platform unifying how higher ed manages scheduling, curriculum, catalog, assessment, and more. Built on a layer of actionable analytics and seamless integrations with every major SIS and LMS. CourseDog is where academic operations drive student success. To learn more, please go to coursedog.com. That's COURSEDOG.com.